So, I have to get a new laptop, which means we're going to have to postpone the normal uploads and do things a little differently for September. Let's have some fun with it, shall we? To start with, how's about reflecting on the best of times and the worst of times with the one thing I liked most and least of each game in the series? I did something similar, but that was forever ago, so yeah, that sounds pretty good. Full spoilers for every game I've played, and if that's a deal breaker, back out now, my friend. Rather than lame old release order, we'll go in the order I played the games in on the channel. That's much more chaotic and thusly much more fun, which means we're starting with Trails of Cold Steel. To begin with, my favorite thing is that this game is an amazing intro to the series, which I say because it's the one I'd recommend. Yes, over first chapter, as controversial as I hope that isn't, but might potentially be, I don't know. It's got that Steam remaster with the extra voice lines, it's got the trappings of modern game design, so there's no old schooliness if you're someone who struggles with that, and it starts a new story, so there's no continuity you have to know to enjoy. It's really only got 1.5 of those things over FC, but the second thing is the main bit. My least favorite thing was the Divine Knight battle against Crow at the end. What in Adios' name is up with that massive difficulty spike out of literally nowhere? For a battle type that was only explained moments earlier with a brain-dead boss battle, quite a way to leave an impression, having the player struggle that hard so close to the end. In the moment, I was even less of a fan than I am now. Next up is First Chapter. Hopefully it's not cheating to say the twist at the end really worked for me. It's blindsiding in the moment, but it's a huge, proper payoff that I'm really glad I didn't have to wait years to be able to see the next part of. That's how you know a game's done a good job of getting you to like its characters. I promise I won't double dip on this reason later on, and you probably see this coming, but First Chapter was released back in like 04 for the PC. Oh wow, that answers some questions, but it looks old and feels older from its interface to its battles, which does it no favors for grabbing your attention. For the life of me, I don't understand why you can't browse your arts list while you're reassigning quartz. Maybe I just never figured it out, but whatever. You get the most out of the first entry of the franchise if you're already a fan, which happens in long-running series, but yeah. And after FC, we played SC. Wild, right? My favorite thing about SC is that Estelle and Joshua actually get together in the end after all the build-up. You'd think that would be the normal progression of things, but you'd be so wrong. It's a move that you and I both know is vanishingly rare these days, but it's also perfect. My least favorite thing about SC is that this is when Ouroboros' "Mwah, just as planned" nonsense begins. All I'm going to say is that at this stage, Falcom had better have something in their pocket that seriously wows us. I don't think I could accept any subpar resolutions to all this mustache twirling. Once SC was finished, it was Cold Steel 2 next. My hands down favorite thing is the sheer volume of playable characters. I'm a sucker for enormous, varied JRPG parties, even if I don't cycle through them super often. I love recruiting back Class 7, their peers, teachers, allies, and apparently in the Reverie Corridor, if you've got the mirror to pay for it, which I did not, their enemies. More games should do that, though I fear with how modern game design is, they might sell you that as DLC, but hey, props to CS2. My least favorite thing, quite easily, is that you have dozens of non-combatant classmates, and I only cared about a handful of them. But they were all front and center. You spend a lot of the early parts of the game re-recruiting these people. I know a lot of you out there talk to each and every one of them religiously, but even if I weren't playing in 1 to 2 hour bursts at a time, I probably still wouldn't do that. And in CS2, you interact with all of them so much more out of necessity, and it still didn't do much to make me care about more than my favorite handful. If you haven't left in disgust by now, I played Trails in the Sky the third afterwards. I don't know why this game gets so much flack. I loved the doors to death, getting to see what happened to everyone and what they've been up to, and also the minigames. It's the perfect denouement to the original trilogy. Of course, its assets reuse the game on the likes of Atlas's shamelessness, but Falcom ain't raking in the dough, folks. There's gotta be a little bit of give and take here. Of course, the flip side is that I didn't like the power discrepancies. You'd think that on attempt number 3, some of the garbage party members would be made at the very least useful, but nope. Compounded by the fact that you're forced to use them in the final dungeon as part of an otherwise ingenious boss rush, Tita, Josette, our precious cinnamon buns, they did you so dirty. Imagine being sent off with such a disrespectful orbman. Why? Why though? We're almost on track, because next was Trails from Zero. Yes, from. I've finally gotten with the program. My favorite thing is the new artist. I mean, yeah, the gameplay, it hasn't gone through any dramatic overhauls. The story has to intro you to its setting and characters, and thusly can't go too buck wild. But oh my adios, whoever the new artist is, just, they blow the old one out of the water so freaking hard, I actually feel bad for them. So crisp and beautiful and modern. What's not to love? My least favorite part of Zero is that you only have 4 party members for 90% of the game. I wanted to play with Noelle and Dudley for so much longer than we actually got to. You have 2 guest spaces. That's it. So when Estelle and Joshua join you for the final dungeon, Noelle and Dudley just aren't coming back. You're just locked with 6 party members. If this game ever got a definitive remake, the first thing they should include is more party spots so you can bring them along, god dang it. I also would not have said no to Murray being playable. In fact, let's tack that on there as like least favorite thing 0.5 for Zero. Afterwards was Azure. Go figure, right? My favorite part of Azure was the story, which means, yes, Azure has my favorite story out of all the games so far. Part of that is that it's built on the shoulders of the preceding game, because we know we're going to get to the bottom of Lloyd's older brother's murder, and you have to be looking forward to that at this point. But there are also an insane amount of twists and turns, some of which I felt blind not seeing coming, but enjoyed all the same. And then you've also got Zeit fighting, finding out about Demi Orgos, Wazi's reveal, Rishia actually being part of the team, and our main man, Dieter the election stealer. It's all so beautiful, you have to love it. My least favorite part of Azure is Beardy Bear. Like I said in the moment, you don't often see a main villain actually get talked down by the protagonist. It was novel. This was not the time to do this. How are you gonna kill Guy and then not even have the resolve to see your designs come to fruition? No sir. And then Maribel, thankfully, teaches him a very painful lesson, but not a lethal one, unfortunately. And the protagonists are all like, oh no, like, no. No thank you, you can keep that. People have also pointed out how Maribel's motives to betray her dad and join up with Ouroboros make no sense, which ties into the mustache twirling of that whole organization. Admittedly, I found that particular plot thread kind of hard to follow, so maybe that lends credence to it, but yeah, Beardy Bear was not working for me. And normally that would bring us to Cold Steel 3, which is the game that I'm currently still playing. Haven't finished it yet, so I think I'll refrain from picking a most and least favorite thing. Which, hey, means we might even revisit this later down the line. But for the time being, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I mean, if you hate me now, I guess I'll just have to live with that. Like I said, September will be a little different, but once I've got a new laptop, it'll be business as usual. So look forward to what I've got cooking for you guys next week.